I want to thank all of you for coming, and I want to thank the ones of you that that this is not your first History Matters. You've been before, and we appreciate you. I have managed to put together the absolute best planning committee on the face of the earth, bar none, in Chivis Bradley, Angel Ledbetter, Sally Matheny, Clint Tuttle, and Philip White. And you're going to get to see each one of them this evening as they're doing different things. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to tell you while I'm up here. One, and I hope they'll reiterate this kind of toward the end, if any of you are interested in military and interested in attending the college, going back to school, or if you've ever thought about it, our contact person here is Kaylee Hampton. And Kaylee can give you all the ins and outs and answer any questions that any of you may have about any of the classes here or financial aid or whatever questions you may have. If she can't answer them the first time you call, I would be willing to bet you she'll find out what you need to know and let you know. Also, I've made some good friends the last year doing this, and I'm going to miss you as this thing proceeds and the library's being renovated and we won't be back. So I wanted to tell you that be looking, because in the fall around October, we're going to have another Paint the Campus Blue. I'm not sure we'll be in the library, but I guarantee you if we're not in the library, we'll be out on the out in the student service area with a tent, and I'd love to see some of you come back, or any of you and all of you come back and see us. And I'm going to finish what they told me to say and sit down, but thank you again. The RS Central High School Marine Corps JROTC Color Guard will present the colors for the evening's event. Tonight's Color Guard members are different than what you're going to see in your program because it changed at the last minute, but the members are Cadet First Lieutenant Harley Sutherland, Cadet Gunnery Sergeant Wellington Rodriguez, and Cadet Staff Sergeant Garrett Carter, commanded by Cadet First Lieutenant Justin Early. Will you please rise for the presentation of the colors and the singing of the national anthem by Philip White.
Colors. Ready, cut, left, face. And repeat. Colors. Ready, cut, freeze, and colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets were clear, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Colors. Ready, cut, forward, colors. Ready, cut, right, face.
You may be seated. The MC for this evening's program really needs no introduction for most of you. Jim Bishop graduated from Gardner-Webb College with an Associates of Arts degree and from Georgetown College with a major in communications and minors in psychology and music. After graduating from Georgetown, he returned to Rutherford County, served 2 years as a public school teacher and music director at Caroline Baptist Church. Jim joined the Air Force during the Vietnam conflict and served 4 years. He was stationed where many Air Force personnel served for the first short while at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, and then at Robbins Air Force Base in Warner Robins, Georgia. After that, he spent 2.5 years at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. After his military service, Jim returned to Rutherford County and began a radio career at WBBO in Forest City, and later on, he became a professional trainer with the Dale Carnegie courses, and he was then hired by Jim Martin to serve the Western office of the governor's office in Asheville for 6 years. He returned to Rutherford County from Asheville after that and became owner-operator of WCAB Radio for 37 years before at least stepping down from his position at WCAB. He's still active in a lot of areas. Jim has served the community as a member of the Economic Development Commission, a member of the Tourism Development Authority, and a member of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce. Jim is a deacon at Florence Baptist Church. He and his wife, Faye, have 2 adult children, 4 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Join me in welcoming Jim as he MCs our program tonight.
Thank you. Please don't stop. I'd like to thank the JROTC from RS Central, Philip White and Chivas Bradley, for these words today. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm honored to be a part of this special program this evening. We're glad you're here to make it even more meaningful. Those of us who served a few years in the military salute those who made it a lifetime commitment. And some, like my friend Bailey Gillespie, spent time as a prisoner of war in the violent hands of North Korea. And we salute him and thank him so very much for that. If you were ever in the military or currently serving, we want to recognize you this evening. When you hear your military anthem, please remain standing until that song ends. Here we go. Thank you very much for being a part of that. It is fitting, I think, that this program falls on the same day as a National Day of Prayer, as thousands gathered in churches, courthouses, and town halls to pray for America's leaders, both civilian and military. Thomas Smith said, "This country has not seen and probably will never know the true level of sacrifice of our veterans." If you will join me now in a brief moment of silent prayer for those in the military who are up against some evil people today. Would you join me in silent prayer? Thank you. Anyone who wears a badge, carries a weapon, goes out into an uncertain world every day deserves our thanks. Detective Clint Tuttle is one of those men. He was born and raised right here in our county in the Green Hill community. After graduating from RS Central High School, he obtained an associate in criminal justice through Isothermal Community College and his bachelor in criminal justice from Western Carolina University. He's currently a sheriff's deputy with the county sheriff's department, where he's assigned to Isothermal Community College as a campus resource officer. Clint has had a passion for Rutherford County history and been involved with this organization, and he enjoys antiquing and researching our county's history. He and his wife, Rebecca, have 3 children, ages 13, 6, and 4. Would you please welcome Deputy Clint Tuttle?
First of all, I'd like to thank Jim for that wonderful introduction. Special thanks to the audience here as we salute our local veterans. And I'd personally like to take a moment to thank the veterans that are here in attendance for their service and commitment to our country. Before we dive into the 2 local Medal of Honor recipients, Bryant Womack and Jerry Crump, I think it's wise to give a brief history of the Medal of Honor and a few facts regarding it. On February 13th, 1861, the first military action to earn a Medal of Honor is performed by Bernard J.D. Irwin, who voluntarily led troops to rescue 60 soldiers in Apache Pass, Arizona. This was before the Medal of Honor was created. Irwin would get his medal almost 30 years later. On December 9th, 1861, Iowa Senator James W. Frimes introduces legislation in Congress to promote the efficiency of the Navy through the creation of medals of honor that will be presented to enlisted seamen and Marines who distinguish themselves by gallantry in action and other seaman-like qualities during the American Civil War. On December 21st, 1861, President Lincoln signs this legislation creating the Navy's Medal of Honor. On February 17th, 1862, Senator Henry Wilson introduces a bill to Congress for an Army Medal of Honor for non-commissioned officer ranks and below. On July 12th, 1862, President Lincoln signs this legislation creating the Army Medal of Honor. On March 3rd, 1863, Army officers are made eligible for the Medal of Honor. Naval officers and Marine officers won't be eligible until 1915. On March 25th, 1863, the first Medal of Honor is presented to Army Private Jacob Perrott for his actions as a member of Andrews Raiders in the Civil War. The Army, Navy, and Marine Corps would all have one of their members first get a Medal of Honor in 1863. The Air Force, being established in 1947, had its first Medal of Honor recipient in 1951. On September 20th, 1905, President Theodore Roosevelt signs an executive order decreeing that a Medal of Honor must be presented in a formal ceremony. Before this, recipients were often mailed their medal, or it was received at military muster if the individual was still in service. Between 1916 and 1917, a Army Medal of Honor Review Board ultimately removes 911 recipients in cases where the medal was erroneously bestowed. On May 24, 1943, Signalman First Class Monroe becomes the first and only member of the Coast Guard to be awarded the Medal of Honor after his death for his actions at Guadalcanal in September of 1942. In 1963, current requirements for the Medal of Honor are set. In 1964, Air Force Medal of Honor design is approved. Prior to that, it used the Army's Medal of Honor. September 1st, 2003, Special Medal of Honor pension is increased to $1,000 per month. All recipients receive this pension no matter their age or occupation. September 5th, 2023 was when the most recent Medal of Honor was awarded. Awarding the medal, the standards to award the Medal of Honor have evolved over time, but the medal has always stood for actions that go above and beyond. The current criteria, again, was established in 1963 during the Vietnam War. The medal is authorized for any military service member who distinguishes himself conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty during one of the following: while engaged in an action against an enemy of the United States, while engaged in military operations involving conflict with an opposing foreign force, or while serving with friendly foreign forces engaged in an armed conflict against an opposing armed force in which the United States is not a belligerent party. All recommendations require thorough reports on the act itself, the battlefield and its setting, at least 2 sworn eyewitness statements, and any other compelling evidence that can be gathered. Recommendation packets must be approved all the way up the military command structure, ending with the United States President as Commander-in-Chief. By federal statute, recommendations for the medal must be submitted within 3 years of the Valorious Act, and the medal must be presented within 5 years. Any submission outside of this timeline requires an act of Congress to waive those time limits. Currently, there have been 3,536 Medals of Honor awarded to 3,517 recipients, which equates to 19 individuals having received the Medal of Honor twice. Currently, there are 62 living individuals that have received the Medal of Honor. Custom and tradition dictates that the Medal of Honor recipient be saluted by all ranks, no matter the recipient's rank. It is the only medal besides the Legion of Merit authorized to be worn around the neck instead of pinned on the uniform. And back here behind me on the left, that is the Air Force Medal of Honor, and the middle is the Army Medal of Honor, and then on the right is the Navy Medal of Honor. So what do these individuals have in common? Well, they all have at least received one Medal of Honor. Up here in the top left, you have Private Jacob Parrott, which was the first Medal of Honor recipient. Next to him, you have President Theodore Roosevelt. He's the only president to have received a Medal of Honor for his actions at San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War. Granted, this medal was received after his death, and I think it was presented in 2000. Next to him, you have William Willie Johnson, Army musician. At the time of his Medal of Honor action date, he was just 12 years old. He was 13 when he was awarded his Medal of Honor. Next to him, you have General Douglas MacArthur. Based on his action date and the age he was at that action date, he's the oldest at 60 years old whenever his actions earned him the Medal of Honor. And that was for his defense of the Philippines in World War II. Bottom left over here, you got Mary Walker. She was a contract surgeon in the U.S. Army and is the first and only female to ever been awarded a Medal of Honor. In 1917, part of that review board actually rescinded her Medal of Honor with her being a contract surgeon with the Army at the time, but it would be given back to her in 1977, or credited back to her in 1977. Next, you got the first African-American, Sergeant William Carney. He is listed in chronological order as having the first Medal of Action date for African-American, and it was during a July 7th battle in 1863. The color guard in his unit was shot, and seeing the American flag going down, he grabbed the flag to keep it from touching the ground, was shot several times, and even though severely wounded, he crawled up the hill to Fort Wagner, planted the flag, and continued to hold until he was rescued, where he refused still to let the flag go until he made it back to the temporary barracks. Next, but not least, you have Sergeant Major Dan Daly. He is one of the individuals we spoke about a while ago that has received 2 Medal of Honors, and the only one that I'm aware of that was actually nominated for a 3rd. His first Medal of Honor came in 1900 during the Boxer Rebellion in China. His second came due to his actions in the Haitian campaign in 1915, and the 3rd that he was recommended for was for his actions in the Battle of Belleau Wood in World War I in 1918. Military brass thought it was unseemly for someone to receive the military's highest award 3 times, so he instead was awarded Distinguished Service Cross. Now, getting on to the local Medal of Honor recipients, found this quote, and I think it is fitting. Ordinary men who, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, exhibited unparalleled bravery and selflessness. First, we got Bryant Homer Womack. He was born May 12th, 1931, near Green Hill in Rutherford County, and this is based on our local historian here, because some argue that it's Mill Spring, Polk County, but the line is right there close. Due to being on the Polk County side of the Rocky Broad River, he attended school in Polk County. When he was young, him and other neighbor children would build little wagons and ride them down the hills surrounding his family home, which is that picture right there in the middle. He enjoyed hunting and fishing, played guitar and banjo. During his teenage summers, Bryant and other friends would get dropped off down in South Carolina and pick peaches for 35 cents a day. He received his draft notice in 1950 and reported for duty in the U.S. Army. All right, the details of his Medal of Honor is as follows. At the time, he was a private first class. This is during the Korean War. He was attached to Medical Company, 14th Regiment, 25th Infantry Division. Again, he was in the U.S. Army. Medal of Honor action date was March 12th, 1952. Medal of Honor action place was near Sakso-ri, Korea. And the citation is as follows. Private First Class Womack distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry above and beyond the call of duty in action against the enemy. PFC Womack was the only medical aidman attached to a night combat patrol when sudden contact with a numerically superior enemy produced numerous casualties. PFC Womack went immediately to their aid, although this necessitated exposing himself to devastating hail of enemy fire, during which he was seriously wounded. Refusing medical aid for himself, he continued moving among his comrades to administer aid. While he was aiding one man, he was again struck by enemy mortar fire, this time suffering the loss of his right arm. Although he knew the consequences should immediate aid not be administered, he still refused aid and insisted that all efforts be made for the benefit of others that were wounded. Although unable to perform the task himself, he remained on the scene and directed others in first aid techniques. The last man to withdraw, he walked until he collapsed from the loss of blood and died a few minutes later while being carried by his comrades. The extraordinary heroism, outstanding courage, and unswerving devotion to his duties displayed by PFC Womack reflects the utmost distinction upon himself and to uphold the esteemed traditions of the U.S. Army. The Medal of Honor was presented to his family at the Pentagon by Secretary of the Army Frank C. Pace on January 7th, 1953. His legacy continues. You have the Bryant H. Womack Building in Polk County, where the local government offices are. You have the Womack Army Medical Center at Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg. He is the only U.S. Army enlisted soldier to have a U.S. Army Medical Center named in his honor. You have the Bryant Womack Ray Bradley VFW Post 10,349 in Mill Spring. You have in front of the Lebanon Methodist Church, a rock with a plaque proudly displayed in front of the church, and he is also buried at Lebanon Methodist Church. And then his painted portrait is proudly on display at the Rutherford County Courthouse. In addition, he is listed on the State Korean War Memorial in Mint Hill, North Carolina. Next, we have Corporal Jerry K. Crump. He was born February 18, 1933 in Charlotte, North Carolina. He moved to the Caroline area of the county as a young child when his father accepted a position at one of the local textile mills. Jerry attended Cool Springs High School but never graduated. Jerry wanted to drop out early into his high school career, but his father said he would have to get a job, and Jerry did not want to go into textiles. As a junior, Jerry and his twin brother Harry decided to join the Army. Jerry's father had to sign to allow Jerry and Harry both to join the Army. The details of Corporal Jerry K. Crump's Medal of Honor is as follows. At the time of his action, he was the rank of a corporal. During the Korean War, attached to Company L, 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. Again, he was part of the U.S. Army. Medal of Honor action date was September 6, 1951. Medal of Honor action place was Chorwan, Korea. He was only 18 years old when the action date took place. And instead of reading Jerry Crump's Medal of Honor citation, I was able to find the actual audio of President Truman presenting Corporal Crump with his Medal of Honor at the White House on June 27, 1952.
Corporal Jerry K. Crump, United States Army, with a citation as follows. Corporal Crump entered the United States Army. A member of Company L, 7th Infantry Regiment, distinguished himself by his victorious gallantry and outstanding courage above and beyond the call of duty in action against the enemy near Chorwan, Korea on the 6th and 7th of September 1951. During the night, the numerically superior hostile force launched an assault against his platoon on Hill 284, overrunning friendly positions and swarming into the sector. Corporal Crump repeatedly exposed himself to deliver effective fire into the ranks of the assailants, inflicting numerous casualties. Observing two enemy soldiers endeavoring to capture a friendly machine gun, he charged and killed both with his bayonet, regaining control of the weapon. Returning to his position occupied by four of his wounded comrades, he continued his accurate fire into enemy troops surrounding his emplacement. When a hostile soldier hurled a grenade into the position, Corporal Crump immediately flung himself over the missile, absorbing the blast with his body and saving his comrades from death or serious injury. His aggressive action inspired his comrades that a spirited counterattack drove the enemy from the perimeter. Corporal Crump's heroic devotion to duty, indomitable fighting spirit, willingness to sacrifice himself to save his comrades reflect the highest credit upon himself and the infantry of the United States Army.
Jerry Crump's legacy. After the Medal of Honor action date, Jerry continued service for another 24 to 25 years, reaching 26 years of service total, attaining the rank of Master Sergeant. Master Sergeant Crump died January 10th, 1977, 6 months after retiring from the U.S. Army. He died, it is said, due to complications with shrapnel in and around his heart cavity. His statue is on top of the Cornelius Veterans Monument. It's a bronze statue that was dedicated in 2017. The Far City VA Clinic was renamed Master Sergeant Jerry K. Crump VA Clinic on July 26, 2023. And again, like Bryant Womack, his painted portrait is proudly on display in the Rutherford County Courthouse.
Sergeant Tittle. Sergeant Tittle, thank you very much for that very informative and good presentation. Very well done, very well done. Before we introduce our next speakers, some of you are going to have an opportunity to win some books, some historical books we have right here. And in your program, was that page 2 or 3? I've forgotten. 2. Page 2. If you look at page 2, if you've got, let me see what I did. If you've got a red star on page 2 of your book, raise your hand if you do. Red star. Anybody got one? All right. Anybody have a blue star? Don't be embarrassed. Blue star, anybody? Second page.
Somebody's not being honest.
Anybody have a silver star? Over here we got a silver star over here. All right. Good, good. Have an honest one here. All right. Anybody have a yellow star? Oh, right here. Very good.
Thank you.
About a green star? No green stars?
I think there was a green circle or a circle.
Huh?
It could be a circle, a sticker.
Oh, yeah, it could be green circle. It's gonna be a circle, yeah. All right, here we go, right here.
Was that the first one?
That's first circle. What about a twinkle, twinkle, little star? No. One more, orange circle. All right, here we go. All right, congratulations. Congratulations. Don't have any more.
How would you like to get these two?
Recall the stars one more time and see what they were, the two that nobody asked for.
Red star,
Or a red sticker?
red star.
Red circle, any place?
Get those highlighters out.
If you got any kind of sticker at all.
Inside the program.
Blue star, red or blue? Or if you'd like to have a book, you can fight over them after the program's over. Next on the program is a man I grew to love and respect a few years ago after working on a couple of projects for him and with him. Man, many of you know and recognize, he's been here a while. Reverend Dr. Colonel Max Bergen, U.S. Army retired from U.S. Army as a colonel. He's from Forest City. He attended Mars Hill College, Fruitland Bible College, and the New York School of Divinity. He served as an Army chaplain for 30 years, achieving the rank of colonel for the 20 years prior to his retirement. He was awarded numerous medals for his service. Upon retiring from the Army, he became a pastor and later retired back here in Rutherford County, pastored over Lattimore Baptist Church, and he's still pastoring a church, believe it or not. He and his wife, Mickey Bergen, are parents to a son and a daughter. Would you please give a big welcome to Reverend Dr. Colonel Max Bergen.
I'm a Tar Heel born, I'm a Tar Heel bred, and when I die, I'm a Tar Heel dead. I have been blessed to be born in Rutherford County, to have brothers and sisters who love me and first cousins who served along with my brothers in the military. If I counted the years correctly, my brothers, 3 brothers and myself, we have served a total of 78 years. I served 30, my brother served 30 in the Navy. My oldest brother, Earl, went into the Army in 1937. I'm 3 years old at that time. He was there at Panama Canal in the artillery, and back when they had the mules to boot. Earl was already in the Army, so when the war started, he went all the way through Italy as an artilleryman, and they won a lot of medals, and he won one for his unit, being his gun could fire more fire in 1 minute than they said they could possibly do, but it won it. Then my other brother, Fred, was in the Army Air Force. He was drafted in 1943. He was a gunner on a B-24, and I'm going to tell you about him and some of his experiences. Then my other brother, Wilbur, he served 30 years in the Navy. He was drafted in 1944 and was chosen to go to the University of North Carolina in what was called the V-12 program. He went there the 4 years, received his commission. They sent him a year to Princeton for grad school. After that, he went on board the small ships, the destroyers, and couldn't get over being seasick. They went to the North Atlantic, and then it was a bad time. And he said, they called me in and said, you've got to stay in the Navy, and we can't help it that you can't get over being seasick, but you can serve on an aircraft carrier, or you can go in the submarines. And he chose the aircraft and became that. He was an air boss on several of the big carriers and served 30 years and was very good. and I can tell you now some history before I go back to my family. Jerry Crump, I was in high school with Jerry. Jerry was my friend, he was a good guy, him and Harry both. And Jerry told me this about his experiences winning the Congressional Medal of Honor. As you saw on the screen, you saw that what he had done. He said, Max, we had got to fighting with the bayonets. He said, I didn't have any ammunition left. And he said, when they threw that grenade in there, he said, I thought to myself, man, I'd rather die by a grenade than by the bayonet. So he said, that's why I fell on the thing. But he said, how about that? I lived and became a big hero for taking it easy like that, an easy way out. Now, as I told you, I want to talk to you about my family, is that Fred was the gunner on the B-24. He set up over the pilot and co-pilot. He was taught how to fly it and how to land it, but not how to take off. If the pilot or co-pilot were injured, he was to take over. Well, they picked up their plane in Michigan. They were on the way to Italy, going down to Key West and across. The pilot told him when they were going down the coast, said, we got plenty of time, I'm going to swing out and go over Forest City. Now, some of you, most of y'all aren't old enough to remember this. They come over Forest City with a 4-engine B-24. They hung it so low that my mother and the lady were doing the washing, and the lady told her, come on, Ms. Bergen, come on, get under this well top. That thing's coming on top of us. And when they come in towards the Florence Mill, the people had been looking out the windows at it. They took off running. Hey, it's coming in here. It's coming in here. And they, you know, with 4 engines, they could make it whine and make it make a weird noise. And everybody was looking and listening. And my teacher would not let, I was in grammar school at Forest City there. She wouldn't let us go out to look at it. We didn't know who it was. We didn't know. They thought it was having trouble and was going to crash. And my brother fixed up a parachute, not a real one, but one that he could drop a letter in, and dropped it in on the farm to my family. But my teacher told me the next day, man, Max, if I'd have known that was your brother in that plane, I would have let us all gone out. But she said, I thought it was going to crash, and people thought that. Now, Fred, on his second mission over Germany, coming back to the base camp, the motor, one of the engines went out of the 4. They were shot down. The pilot, co-pilot was killed, and several, Fred and one other guy were the only 2 that parachuted safely. Well, they were told, if you parachute, you're going to be killed. He said, the German fighter pilots will get you. They just shoot you in the parachute and all. My brother said, Max, you can't believe that plane come up to me. I could look and see him in the eye. He said, I could see him in the plane, and he come straight towards me. And he said, I gave him a salute. He said, guess what? He looked at me, gave me a thumbs up, and turned and flew away. Now, my mother and father were people who prayed. They prayed aloud every night from the day I can remember till the day I left home. My name was called. My brother's name was called. Fred said he landed in Austria. He said some old men come up and picked him up and took him back and let him look and see at the plane where it had crashed. And then they put him in the thing. He said, about like used to be a small jail where the town office is at now in Forest City. He put us in, they put him in there, and then the Germans come and picked him up. And he said they talked about asking him, where are you, and interrogating him. And he said, I gave name, and they said, oh, we don't need this from you, we can tell you. And he said they knew where he had been except for 3 weeks. There's enough German people around in America, I guess, that gave him the information and kept up with him. But he, as a POW then, when he went down, though, for 3 months, we did not know what had happened to him. The Army just said, it was the Army Air Force then, just said, he's missing in action. My mother prayed and prayed for him. Everybody told my mother, forget that, don't pray for him. You know that he's not alive, you know he's dead. The Army would have known in 3 months where he was. And my mother's words were, God gave me that child, and he's not dead as far as I feel and pray. And she continued to pray. In the 3rd month, the end of 3 months, we got a telephone call from a man in New York City who said, I was listening on shortwave, and the Red Cross gave out a list of the new POWs, and your son was listed as one. And my mother, I'd never seen her do this in church, but that Sunday morning she walked the aisles of the church shouting and praising God for what had happened to her son. Now, I'm like 10 or 12 years old when he comes home. I go, hey, Fred, why didn't you escape? Why didn't you do it? I'd seen one of those movies, Big Escape and all that. He said, Max, what was I going to do? I don't speak the language. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know which way to go to the enemy, to get away. I didn't know which way the Americans were. And he said, I do know this. Anybody that tried to escape, they brought them back and shot them in front of us to let them know that you don't try to escape. But he came home weighing 97 pounds. And they sent him and his wife to Miami to recuperate in that. But, with 3 brothers like that, and my brother Wilbur, he had 100 and something night landings. If you ever looked at a carrier, there's things moving and going up and down, I'll salute my brother anytime. Now they're all 3 dead. I'm the baby in the family. I'm the only one left. So what do you think I'm going to do with my life? I ended up going to Mars Hill for 2 years and left Mars Hill or finished at Mars Hill. It was a junior college then. I came that summer. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a partial scholarship at Mars Hill, but I wasn't good enough to be in the big leagues. So I didn't have the money, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So Max Toney, who taught school at Chase, he and I were good friends. We went in and said to the draft board, I want to volunteer for the draft. And they said, we don't need you. You've already got a deferment because of your grades. You can go on to school. I said, what am I going to go to school for? I don't know what I want to do with my life. And besides that, I didn't have the money either. So in September of 1954, I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and finished basic, spent 2 years. I was TDY to Fort Carson, Colorado. Now, I was a Christian and I lived it. But if you've ever been as an enlisted guy and you're in there where it's double bunked and it's Sunday afternoon, there's nobody around but you, You know, and I don't mean this against the soldiers, but I used to tell him, you bust his head open, you go to find a bottle of beer and a naked woman. And I said, I didn't like that kind of life. That wasn't where I was living. But in that time, laying in that bunk that afternoon, the Lord said to me, if you became a chaplain, you could help guys like you. And that's why I became a chaplain in the Army. I went, now, a lot of people don't realize the chaplain is there. I had one of my friends here, he's one of the businessmen here in town, asked me this week, he said, oh, when you were in Vietnam, didn't you have a chapel that you stayed in? I said, so I sure wished I did. I said, chaplains do the ministry of presence. We bring God to man and man to God. I had 200 and something hours flying time in choppers. I had 5 special forces camps up on top of the mountains. And I would go and spend the night, serve in the chow line, and get back then. It was, you want a Tennessee rations, which one's your favorite rations? You know, give it that. And I would generally say, hey fellas, I've come and watched you work and do, and I've served you. I'm going to have chapel service here in the mess tent after everybody's eaten this afternoon. I had an average of 845 people in chapel during the week. It was so good. I enjoyed what I do. I love soldiers, and I find out a chaplain can help not just in the sense of relating to God, but to be a chaplain you have to have 4 years of college, 3 years of seminary, and for most you have to have a denomination endorse you. And as a Southern Baptist, I had to have 2 years of pastoring. So from the time I went in 1954, I was either in the reserves or on active duty. When I first went to Vietnam was 1966. And you won't believe how my welcome to Vietnam went this way. I went over to they took me from Tan Son Nhut Air Base over to where the chaplain for the Vietnam was located. And he said, well, you're assigned to a unit up at Pleiku, which is about 3 hours. It's in the Central Highlands, in the mountains. He said, now you've got to get over there. I went over to the air base and I asked this young sergeant, I said, hey, I got to get to Pleiku. What do I do? He said, well, let me tell you something. If you will hide that captain's bars and just let that cross show, you can get anything you want. I said, well, I want to go to Pleiku. I got to Pleiku. I didn't know where my unit was or anything. They said, hey, you're 20 miles from here. I got out thumbing, literally. A lieutenant colonel come by and he chewed my butt. What are you doing as an officer out here thumbing? He said, why didn't you let us know or let your unit know? I said, how did I know? I was told to get to Pleiku in the unit. And the unit now is 20 miles from the air base. But when I got into the unit, my battalion commander looked at me and said, well, by gosh, I've got somebody that can do something. Now, my last month there, my commander called me in and said, you will not fly, you will not get out here and go to these places. He said, if you died, I'd lose command. He said, my guys believe in you so much. I'll tell you this one thing. I've been taught, most of you, if you were Baptist, you've been taught that you are the only Bible some people may read. I lived and walked as a Christian in that unit and lived. I can't believe I was stationed at Fort Benning after, this was many years after. I'm getting a tag at one of the Georgia tag to put on my car. And I see this old sergeant that I knew come walking. He'd lost a leg. he started hollering, Chappenbergen, Chappenbergen. And he come running up, and his wife was with him, and she come running up. She said, oh, I just wanted to see what God looked like. She said, my husband thought you were God, because I had saved his career in Vietnam. But I'm proud to have been born in Rutherford County. The people here all helped me to get a job every summer. The Watkins and others, I pulled a lot of cars out of Detroit. 18 hours straight through with no stopping other than get a pack of crackers and a Coke. And I could do two trips in a week and bring 4 cars in. And these were people that other people knew. And I'm so grateful and I'm most thankful to God. And the chaplains are needed today, and the soldiers, Air Force, all of us, we need the people in it. You need to tell your kids, your grandkids, the military is a good life. Rutherford County, and this is my setup, I have worked under 8 different generals, talking with them and knowing them real well. They said, I had rather have somebody from the South as a soldier because of the attitude they have. 1, they accept discipline. And 2, if he's out in the boonies and the Jeep breaks down, he'll wire it together and do something to bring it home. And he said, them Yankee guys, they just want the wrecker to come pick them up. And that, but life was good. I met 3 of the presidents. I'll tell you one on President Johnson. I was at Brooke Army Medical, and in front of us was the parking area, and it had the perfect peace symbol. 1 sidewalk went like this and 2 off. Now, and he took my office in the place, and at the time I was going to go up the 7th floor, and they said, oh, you can't. And Johnson looked at me and said, I don't believe that chaplain would want to kill me. He said, put him on here. But that when he got up there and saw that peace sign that evening, and his words, I'll use what he said, by God, that better not be here in the morning. And they put 2 more sidewalks in that night or started working on them. Get it? But I can tell you a lot of history. Life has been good. I thank God, and I thank God I'm born in Rutherford County. Let me say one thing. You won't believe, this is my hat. I was a division chaplain in Germany, and when I wear this hat, I don't do it for that. I love this. Being a division chaplain was one of the most enjoyable jobs I've ever had. But I have had, I don't know how many people at Big Dave's or Forest City Fish Camp or Hardee's, I go to pay my bill. Hey, your bill's already been paid. Who did it? Somebody before you. So thank you for having such a good county.
What a man, what a memory, what a life. I don't know how he remembers that far back. I can't remember yesterday sometimes. But it's so great to have him on the program. If you want to see a real Marine, look no further than our next presenter. Sergeant Major Don Barrett, U.S. Marine, retired, enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1969. After graduating from Parris Island, he headed to Vietnam. Upon arriving home, he was stationed on the east and west coasts and overseas for numerous deployments. The highlights of his career include drill instructor duty at Parris Island,
Hoorah.
and Marine security guard duty at the American Embassy in Warsaw, Poland. In 1995, he retired after 25 years of service. He came back to Rutherford County and established the Marine Corps JROTC program at RS Central High School. He retired from the school system in 2012. He and his wife, Ann, reside in Rutherford County. They have 2 sons, Don Jr., Lieutenant Colonel, Air Force, retired, and Michael, First Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. Please welcome Sergeant Major Don Barrett.
Thank you, Jim. I guess the first thing I want to say is, as the chaplain was up here talking, I got all kinds of stuff going through my mind. I think of different things, and I know the veterans that are sitting here this evening, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, and also everyone else, as we recognize those special individuals from Rutherford County, and we do have one more. But as the chaplain was up here talking, you know, I can honestly tell you, and they will agree with me, you won't find an atheist in a foxhole. We may not all be God-fearing Christians, but when, now I can't say that word, hits the fan, believe me, you're praying. There is no doubt about it. So, you know, I had some great battalion chaplains. I was fortunate enough to stay in the infantry my entire career. And we had some battalion chaplains, and honestly, if he didn't have that cross on, you would just think he was a Marine. He wanted to do everything that we did. He would come into my office. At that time, I was a first sergeant. And he says, First Sergeant, what are the men doing today? I said, well, we're doing crew serve weapons, Chaplain. What is that? I said, well, you know, 50 cal machine guns and M60s and mortars. Oh, yeah. Can I do that? I said, I have no problem with you dropping a few rounds downrange at all. And, you know, as long as a division chaplain doesn't come up here and get in my case for taking you out there and shooting guns. But he got permission. He actually got permission on my last deployment to Japan to actually qualify with a rifle and a pistol. This is a chaplain. You know, chaplains normally don't go to the range, but and he was very proud of those two badges right there. But honestly, great, great battalion chaplains. We're here tonight to recognize an individual, recognize a Gold Star family. That's what we're going to be doing. I happen to know the Ebert family. I knew them both when I was working up at RS Central, and I know Gail is down here now at the college. In 2004, we established a Marine Corps League in Rutherford County. There was no Marine Corps League here. We established one in 2004, and that Marine Corps League detachment, located right here in Forest City, was appropriately named after Chris Ebert. Detachment 1221, the Corporal Chris S. Ebert detachment. At that time in 2004, we had, I think, 7 members that signed the actual charter. We now have 76 members in that detachment, and they are active. There's a lot of things that that detachment does in this county. People are familiar with the Toys for Tots program that we run in this county, where we will do over 350 families, and then you figure out the kids, normally 2 to 3 children in each one of those. We only deal with Rutherford County. We put flags out on Main Street. We do this, we do that. We stay active, and we take care of our veterans. The chaplain said, I'm glad to be from Rutherford County. I'm not. I'm a transplant, okay? I'm a Yankee, you know. My wife was from here. Some of you may know Ann Harrison, but I don't regret living here one bit. This is the most gracious county and town. The outpouring of support that we get as a Marine Corps League detachment is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. We don't ask, we just mention something's going on, boom, the people are lining up to help us out. Most of what we do is to take care of the needy vets in the county. My remarks are short. I know it. I'm not going to elaborate and go on and on and on. I came up here tonight to recognize that Gold Star family. And what I'd like to do right now, if I could have them come up here, I guess on the stage, is that what we're going to do? Yeah, up on the stage. Come on up, guys. that microphone. Gail, pleasure, man. This is a true honor for me to be able to do this. On behalf of the History Matters and Isothermal Community College, we'd like you to have this plaque, Gail. Christopher S. Ebert, February 8th, 1983 to September 17th, 2004. We have not forgotten. Given this day, May 2nd, 2024. Gail, this plaque is just a small token of the appreciation that we have for Chris, his service to this country, this state, and this county. And we thank you, brother. Short, sweet, and simple, or you can just jump off the stage and say, man, I'm out of here. All righty.
Thank you all very much. This is special. It's kind. I can tell you, Chris liked being a Marine. It was very special to him. These pictures up here, this is a non-commissioned officer award. This other picture is Chris in Fallujah in a house. There was a photographer and a reporter embedded in his company, and they decided to have a church service in Fallujah, and that was Chris praying during that service. It's just a very special picture to me. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
I know that's tough,
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that, very touching. I feel very protected up here tonight between the colonel, the sergeant major, Marine, and Army. I feel very safe up here tonight, so I'm honored to be part of this occasion this evening. Thank you for being here, and thank you for giving special attention to all this. I do want to thank Kathy Webb, Clint Tuttle, Sally Matheny, Angel Ledbetter, Chivas Bradley, and Philip White for their work on getting this plan. But you guys stand up. Let them see who you are. All of you stand up. Thank you very much. Job well done. It's sad that this is going to be the last one of these. They've done some outstanding work over the past months doing these History Matters programs. Hopefully, down the road a ways, they might re-engage that again. As we close, let me remember this, ask you to remember this, that when you see one of our local Vietnam veterans, remember this: veterans leave a war, but war never leaves a veteran. Thank you for coming. God bless you.
That's the honest truth right there. Honest truth.
Appreciate you being here.
When you said Germany, when you